And as a tech company, and I've been in the tech business for 26 years, and I've seen many cycles of companies come and go. And if you're not willing to eat your own young, then you're going to die, you'll fall by the wayside.
So Karl, thanks for having me here at your spectacular New York office of F5.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. It's great to see you, and it's great to have an opportunity to dig in a little bit on F5. It's a company which has been around for quite a while, but I imagine that just as the communications market is really changing at the moment, that F5 has had to flex its model and its value proposition to the market somewhat. Where does F5 fit right now in the next generation communications market?
Right. So we've been through a number of what I call these inflection points. And I've been with F5 about 11 years now. And really the first big change for the company was when we released our original version of TMOS, our Traffic Management Operating System. And the whole vision with that was to move past being effectively a load balancing company to being a company that really focused on enabling applications and access to these applications in various types of infrastructure. And at the time, the focus was obviously the data center.
Right.
And so we released that in 2004, and we've been evolving that platform as the infrastructure has evolved in the data center. And one of the big inflection points was when VMware came out with virtualization back in 2006.
Right.
And that really started gaining traction. And that changed the landscape because at the time, data centers tended to be very distributed, and what customers started doing was consolidation. And it turned out that our platform, our platform of services, these application services with TMOS, was an ideal place to consolidate these application services and place it in front of these consolidated data centers that were running now a virtual framework. And so that was a big change, and that propelled our growth quite nicely for a number of years. The more recent changes, though, were more this evolution towards the software model. And so in 2009, we released all of our products. So we support a number of, we have security, we have optimization, we do kind of traditional ADC kind of traffic management functions. We have some other functionality in there, and we took that and made it completely software based. And our functionality is always, mostly software. I mean, 90% of our functionality, or 90% of my development, dollars are spent directly on software.
Right.
In that development, it's actually increasing as we go along. But as we evolve towards that software model, we released these virtual editions. Now, what's happening, of course, is the world is becoming cloudified.
Right.
And there's a definite movement to moving applications and developing applications in a different type of infrastructure, which is these cloud-based infrastructures. And that changes not only how you develop an application,
right,
but how they're structured.
Yeah.
They tend to be more distributed. They're API-driven. They're open. And with that model, what that means, we're evolving our products to now be able to follow that same path of being more distributed, being able to run in these different frameworks, be orchestratable and decentralized.
Right. Was it a big risk when you eliminated the hardware piece of the product line altogether? Did it feel like a risk at the time, or was it just something which you felt was inevitably going to be demanded by the customers, as it were?
Well, we listened to our customers, and to us it seemed like net new opportunity because it was a new footprint to live in. And as a tech company, and I've been in the tech business for 26 years, and I've seen many cycles of companies come and go. And if you're not willing to eat your own young, then you're going to die, you'll fall by the wayside.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've been a company that's really not been scared of trying to go off and forge in these new areas,
right,
and try to move forward with that. And so when we did that, we're still producing hardware. We still have a very active development process on that. We have differentiated products, especially when you start looking at how we build our hardware. We use things like FPGAs and other ways that provide differentiation. And believe me, we have customers that still demand that and still have, because traditional data centers aren't going away, but that's not where the growth is. The growth is in software.
Right.
In fact, we grew our market share last year 13%. So we're number one in ADC software, for example. And so we obviously want to continue with that growth trend.
And you've just had a record quarter as well, so it's obviously the strategy's paying off. Are you agnostic about what type of silicon the software is going to run on? Are you an Intel house?
We're an Intel house. In fact, we're very closely partnered with Intel. We've been working with them for over 10 years now, very closely with their teams. And a lot of what's actually been built into the processor over time was influenced by our technology team, because we have kind of that deep low-level understanding of what makes CPUs efficient and how to get the most out of them, and they actually listen to us. And
Well,
it's been a great partnership. Yeah.
I have a theory about Intel that they're one of the 4 big companies that is going to make it through this big revolution we're going through. And in the case of Intel, I think it's pretty obvious that if you provide the silicon which the software runs on, which they do, and you are working to make sure that you can deliver an infrastructure end-to-end, which provides things like management or improved security and performance and things like that, it's hard to see how they're going to not win out of the current situation. Do you agree that that's the case with Intel?
Yeah, for the foreseeable future, I mean, they seem to be making all the right moves. They're very focused on, they did miss kind of the mobile revolution, but it doesn't seem like they're, exactly. But it doesn't seem like they're going to be repeating those mistakes, at least with cloud, for example. I don't know if you saw a couple days ago, Sandra Rivera, who runs we
know her well.
So in fact, she spoke at our last Agility conference as part of my presentation. Cool. But she, seeing the moves in the cloud, with the Internet of Things, they see that as a massive opportunity. They talk about 50 billion, connected devices in 4 years in 2020, which I believe actually, because I look at my home network. I got 53 IP addresses in my home network. And I know
crazy,
I'm not a good representative, maybe of the average person, but that's where it's going, right? So.
Yeah, it must be helpful with service and support being a CTO for your home network.
Yes, right? I'm our local IT administrator.
If only everybody had a CTO of F5 at home to help them with their
that's right.
home networks. But tell me about the customer mix. Is it traditional carriers, tier 2, tier 3? Is there some large enterprise in there? What about the OTTs?
Well, our breakdown any given quarter is typically between 75 to 80% enterprise, and then 20 to 25% service provider. And so, just example of our service provider customers, we are we're at the top 5 mobile carriers in the U.S., for example, all the tier 1s. Right. In the world, it's the top 10 mobile carriers. I mean, so we're at the biggest enterprises. So the large, we focus on the global 2000, is in terms of our core products, and then service provider, it's all, like I said, big carriers, right? But we're represented tier 1s, tier 2s, throughout the world. It's very global for us.
And you have quite a rich slate of things that you can do for those companies in terms of the value proposition, right? You can help make the application more secure. You could tell people about how the application is being used, which would give them some insights, which would help them monetize it. Performance is still probably on the list of benefits, is
Absolutely.
That right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, which of those, I've named 3, which do you think is the most important to most of your customers right now? Security
is top of mind to everyone right now. And so we see that, we see that as the biggest opportunity, at least in the short term. So in our security products are a bit different, because like I said, we focus on the application. So we're not a perimeter firewall device like a Palo Alto or somebody else where you sit at the edge of the network. We're actually designed to sit between the user and the application. And so when that session is active, so the user logs in, we can determine who the user is, are they validated to access this, access these applications or these different components of the infrastructure, and then we can protect the application from different exploits during that session. We can detect whether it's a valid user or an invalid. We can detect botnets. There's all sorts of things we can do. We can prevent denial of service attacks, both volumetric as well as application focused. And so it's a unique proposition in terms of what we do. But at the end of the day, it's about protecting the data behind the applications and where they reside. The traditional security devices are more focused on protecting users who sit behind the firewall from accessing malicious content or hitting bad websites and things like that. And we're really about keep that data safe and make sure that it's protected. And we can scale to do that in these different environments. And so
even in a large service provider environment?
Absolutely. In fact, that's exactly why we've been getting traction. And there's 2 aspects of that. There's concurrency. And we can support hundreds of millions of concurrent users without any performance degradation. And then it's also about throughput. So we can do hundreds of gigabits of throughput. In fact, one of the big demands we have right now on us is 100 gig interfaces. And so we have some new hardware coming that will support that. And we also have also on our software as well, where we demonstrated IDF, a 40 gig VE running on their platform.
Right.
And so we got about, in that demo, it's about 33 gigs of throughput on it, but we have a path to 100 gig. So they're demanding performance for sure, but security is one of the big driving ones. The other one is efficiency. One of the big sellers for us has been about TCP optimizations. And it turns out that you get about a 30% on average improvement in performance just by doing these TCP optimizations, and we're seeing a lot of the carrier.
So that's a bandwidth saver?
It's a bandwidth saver, yeah, for sure, and it's also latency. So it's just user experience, because TCP is not very good across channels where you have congestion or loss and things like that, and that's a wireless channel.
Right.
And what we've seen customers move to is that versus say like video optimization or other types of optimization solutions, because it's so much cheaper and so much more effective, and they get much better bang for the buck. And that's just one example.
Yeah.
We provide many other types of optimizations, like caching, compression.
Yeah.
DNS caching is a big one for our service provider. We can by an order of magnitude improve their DNS performance, and that helps secure their DNS systems as well. So it's a pretty interesting mix of what they do.